So Life Lessons TV, look, it's going to be sort of, I think, a little bit edgy. I think it's going to be a little bit off the cuff. I'm letting you know now that once I get excited about a topic, I might swear a little bit. I might let a couple of curses go. So it's one of those things where I think I just want things to be kind of real. Hey guys, Adrian D'Amico here. Welcome to another episode of Life Lessons TV, episode number 18, and joined by Dan Hunt.
How are we, guys? Thanks for having me here, Adrian.
Thanks for coming, man. Look, I've obviously seen some of the work that you've been doing online for a while. I got to work with your wife Nadine not too long ago, one of my courses, which was great. But today, I wanted to chat to you, I guess, want to touch on your hot mental health movement. I want to touch on some things around your life, your lifestyle, and how that's all come about. So I guess for those of you who don't know who you are, you want to introduce yourself and just tell them about who you are and what you do.
So my name is Dan Hunt, former professional NRL player for the St. George Illawarra Dragons. I played 150 games throughout my career. I was coached by one of the best coaches of all time, under Wayne Bennett, who's been a massive influence on my life. And I've had some ups and downs. I was diagnosed type 2 bipolar in 2010, and we'll get into a bit of that of my story. And my career got cut short at 28 years old. I had a career-ending knee injury in the Auckland Nines in February of last year. And obviously, your career's taken away at 28 years old. And as a professional football player, you sort of want to play to your 32, 30, 35, and so didn't finish the way I wanted to. But I was very lucky not lucky that I went through what I did, but it put me on the path to study in and around social work, mental health, alcohol and other drugs and addiction, and it's been a massive influence on me to be able to transition into what I'm doing now. And I guess, so I was a professional athlete for 10 years. And now I'm working in the mental health space. I now work with the Dragons as well in community and in partnerships as an ambassador, and also with the NRL as a mental health ambassador. And I've got my mental health movement. So my mental health movement was created when I was struggling. I didn't know where to get help. I didn't know how to get help. I felt like I was alone. I felt like I was weak if I asked for help. And I had no education in and around mental health. So if I felt that way, I can guarantee someone else did. So that's why I created that, because I want to give people the tools, give them the education, and give them the path where they can get that help, because it takes a stronger person to ask for help than it does to just suffer in silence.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me more about your career. Have you always been born and bred in Wollongong?
So I was born in Sydney, St Margaret's Hospital, but I grew up in Dapto, which everyone knows is just down the road, about 15-20 minutes. And grew up in Dapto, and then made the Illawarra Steelers side, the 16s and the 18s, and then got picked up into the first grade squad at 19 years old, and then made my debut in 2007. And then sort of was a dream come true, because as a young kid you have that dream to be that NRL player. Yeah, right. But as everyone knows, as a kid that's still a dream, and it doesn't sort of become reality until I was 16, 18, and then I'm like, hold on, I can make something of this here. And that's when I set some goals. I started sacrificing, like going out partying with friends and stuff like that, and really put my head down. And I got the results that I wanted, and the dream did come true. But there was definitely a lot of other stuff along the way. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Who'd you look up to in the day?
So for myself, Paul Harrigan was a massive, role model or someone that I looked up to. I used to have his picture cut out and stuck on my bedside table. I'd look at him every night before I went to bed. I used to get the flat top haircut like him. And if everyone knows Paul Harrigan, the Chief Harrigan, he was probably one of the toughest front rowers to have ever played the game. If you watched him in State of Origin, he was a tough character. But then off the field, he was a gentleman. And he cared about the community, cared about the individual, and he's someone I definitely tried to replicate the way I played. Obviously I didn't play Australia or Origin, but I played as tough and as hard as I could every game. That's probably why I'm retired at 28, because I wasn't the biggest front rower. But he was definitely one of the idols for myself.
How old are you now?
30.
30, wow, okay.
So it's been a tough 30 years.
Yeah, there you go.
I still got the baby face to me, Mrs. Reckons.
Yeah. It works well for you.
Yeah, I wouldn't say works well.
All right. So tell me about life as an NRL player, because obviously from an outsider's point of view is obviously there's a lot of hard work, there's a lot of training, but it's a different life to what most people live. We're working people, we're going to our 9 to 5 jobs, but your 9 to 5 job is to play footy. So what's that like?
It's now that I've retired and look back, I can definitely say it is a high pressure job.
Yeah.
They say, oh, what do we do? Like you train and then go and sit there and drink coffee. Like it's totally not like that. Although you might see us at the coffee shop, but the pressure of it. So every day you come into training and you've got to test yourself physically, mentally, and emotionally to your limits, to the best that you can be. And as you know, some days you come into work in another job, like you feel like shit, or I don't feel like working today.
Yeah.
And it's the same with that, but you have to find a way to train to 100% of your effort, no matter how you're feeling. And every training session, every game is videoed. And then we have video sessions where it's broken down. Every action, every play, every movement that you do is scrutinised. So if you do something wrong, you know that you're going to have to go over it and things like that. So in that respect, there's a lot of pressure, but that is also the part when you retire that you miss the most, because you're testing yourself every single part of every single thing, and it's a bit of a catch-22. So you have to find something to fill that void when you do retire. But in terms of the life as an NRL player, it's something I would never change, but it's taught me so much. Like an average day, like you'd come in, we'd be in there at 6:30, you'd start your stretching and things like that, get ready, have a video session, and then we're out on the field for 2 to 3 hours where we're doing defense, fitness, attack, attacking plays, whatever it may be for that week. And then we come back in, we have our protein, have the feed, have a quick rest for maybe 15, half an hour. Then we're in the gym, and then that's for about an hour and 15. And then you got your physio, you got your wrestling, and then you got your extras. And then the end of the day, you're out of there by about 3, 4 o'clock. So in pre-season, that's 6 days a week. And then in season, it depends on what day of the week you're playing. But it'd be still a good 4 to 5 days a week. So it is a full-time professional endeavour. So
So do you think that's helped you in terms of your mental toughness, from a psychological point of view, to get ready for games, to be performing at an optimum level from a physical and mental point? Do you think that's been a grounding for you?
I think it's definitely helped. I wish I knew now what I know since retiring and since embarking on all my mental health stuff, because I would have approached games a lot differently. For myself, I didn't have that much talent playing, so I had to fill that gap with extra training, extra work, and just doing all those extras.
So why do you say that?
I wasn't the biggest front rower, and things like that. So I had to do extra weight sessions. I had to make sure my diet was right, so I could keep the weight on. I did extra fitness sessions, because if I didn't have the size, I wanted to have the fitness. So that's what I did there, and I'd have on my days off, I'd go and do fitness. I'd go and swim 5 or 6K in the pool, and things like that, because I wanted to know that I was doing more than the guy next to me, or in my opposite number. And that definitely it's a bit of a mind FUCK, so to speak.
You can fucking swear all you like on this show, mate. So go for it.
It does do with your mind, and then on game day, like you wake up, like I'd be physically sick some days, like before the game or during it, just because you have those knots and nerves and things like that. But the older I got and the more experience I got, you learn to harness that. So you learn to mentally visualise and things like that. And Wayne Bennett taught us this thing, just to focus on one thing in attack and one thing in defence, both that you do well, and just focus on those things. And then that changed me forever as a player, because I wouldn't look at the score, you'd be worrying about the score, the injuries, what's going to happen, the outcomes of all these things. But they're all out of your control. What was in your control, the 2 things that you can do well, and that's all I focused on, and it did. And I try and pass that on to the presentations I do with young people, older people, and things like that. If we just focus on the 2 things that we're good at, it can change your outlook on a lot of things.
But you know that now, and you
exactly. It's definitely, hindsight is a beautiful thing, and that's why I'm doing a lot of junior development with the HPU with our Steelers.
Yeah.
Because I think I've got a lot of things to pass on to our younger players.
Wow. So the pressure that you had as a player, did it ever take over you, and did you ever feel like you wanted to quit, or did it manifest in other ways in terms of acting out, or
no,
things
not
like
the
that?
pressure so much of playing. It was so for my story, like it was 2010 was the year that really was I wouldn't say a turning point, but it was a time where I hit rock bottom for myself.
Yeah.
So 2010, if everyone knows, that's when the Dragons won the grand final.
Right.
And as a player, as a kid, you want to play NRL. Then the next thing is to, obviously, people want to play representative and stuff, but the real deal is you want to win a premiership with your team.
Yep.
And that year, I was playing the best footy. I'd started every game. I was probably playing the best footy in my career. And in the warm-up of round 16 at Wynn Stadium against the Canberra Raiders, I turned in the warm-up and I snapped my Achilles tendon and it rolled up my leg. And I looked down to grab my calf for the pain. It was just my shin bone. And it was the pain of that, and obviously you can only imagine, but that year I had to go on to watch my team win the grand final and I wasn't playing. I know now I was a part of it.
Yeah.
Wayne Bennett went and got me a premiership ring.
Yeah.
Because he knew I would have played otherwise, which meant the world to me.
Yeah.
And I'll never ever forget that. But to watch the team go on to win without being a part of it was really tough for myself.
Yeah.
But what really was I wouldn't say the icing on the cake because that's sort of a positive, but that period, surgery comes. I had to get surgery on my leg, but that period, it brought back everything from my past and it hit me like a ton of bricks. The domestic violence, the drug abuse, the physical, emotional abuse, and stuff like that. And I wasn't coping. And the only coping strategy that I had, because I had no education, I didn't know where to get help, I didn't know how to get help, and there was no way I was putting my hand up and saying I was struggling, because that's a sign of weakness, right? Of
course.
Bullshit it is, but at the time that's how I felt. So the only coping strategy I had was painkillers, and I took them. I didn't care.
So how old were we talking when you?
2010. So I would have been. What am I now? 30. So what's that? 6 years ago. I'm not real good at maths, but about 23, 24. And realistically, you're still a young kid at that age.
Yeah, exactly right.
So I had my mum there. She was supporting me, but when you struggle, you push everyone away.
Yeah.
My wife was there, but I was pushing her away. And now I know from my studies that men in particular hide their anger with hide their sadness with anger. And I just pushed everyone away. But it wasn't until Wayne Bennett, he come to me because he could see I was struggling. Because there'd be some days I'd come into training and I'd look like shit. Because I was in rehab.
Right.
When you're in rehab, you train by yourself.
Really?
Because no one else was injured.
Yeah.
And so I'm in the gym in a boot on crutches.
Right.
All these demons running through my head, and you just feel like you're alone.
So what? Can you touch more about things that happened in the past? So is that something from a childhood?
Yeah. So just growing up, like mental illnesses in our family. My mum struggles with depression. My sister has bipolar, and my auntie has schizophrenia. So it's something that's in our family that I'm aware of. But growing up, it was just a tough environment. My dad was a tough man. He taught me a lot of things that I've got now about hard work, about working hard for something you want to achieve, and things like that. But it was just through the old school way, and there was a lot of physical, emotional, I guess violence in a way, and those things they can have a real impact on you. As a kid, you don't really know because you don't know any better. You don't know any different. You didn't grow up in other people's houses.
Of course.
And it wasn't until I was an adult that those things really affected me.
So did you have any idea that would creep back into your life?
No way. Like it's always in the back of your head.
Yeah.
Because it's definitely affected not just me but other members, and you get on with it as we do.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the stigma surrounding mental health, mental illness, domestic violence. We just get on with it.
Sure.
People be bystanders to domestic violence. That's all right. He's like that. Or things like that. Now we're starting to get that education, but it wasn't until that was that pinnacle or that moment that just it hit me, and that's that in a way now I look at it. I know people talk about fate and things like that, but if I didn't go through what I did in 2010, I wouldn't be here having mental health movement, doing what I'm doing now. And that's honestly from the bottom of my heart.
Yeah.
So in a way, I'm grateful for that happened, because what that taught me was all the things I needed to know for myself and get me that education so now I can help others. Because you can't help someone else without helping yourself.
Of course.
But the thing about it is I'm not the only one to have gone through it. Other people out there have, but the thing about it is the power of story is what breaks down everything. It's what normalizes things. And they say the more times you put yourself in an uncomfortable position, the more times you'll feel comfortable in that position. So I think by me telling my story has made me a lot more comfortable with my past, with my story, and things like that. And people say, why are you so open about talking about your upbringing or your bipolar and things like that? Like, no one does that. But I've got bipolar, but I can manage it. I'm happier than a lot of other people out there. And I've got moods to manage, and I have bad days and I have good days, but I know now the things that I've got to put in place. A lot of people today, for example, they go out partying and then they say, I get anxiety and I get depressed. Well, look at your actions,
your
look
lifestyle.
What you're doing, your lifestyle. So
it's conducive to that sort of thing. Yeah.
So it's just about having those things. But to get back to your question, I had no idea of how it would affect me as an adult. And as I was saying before, I didn't get because when you struggle, you have your blinkers on, you focus only on your struggle. And it wasn't until, as I said, Wayne Bennett come to me and said, look, I can see you struggling. Are you okay? Is there anything I can do to help? Yeah. And
did you still want to come forward at that point, or did you feel like you'd still shut him down and say, look, everything's all right?
Yeah, you just keep convincing yourself or justifying to yourself, no, I'm all right, I'll get through it. Yeah. And things like that. So you just get caught up in that vicious cycle.
What was the turning point in terms of, like, I totally get where you're coming from. For me, I can relate to it in business. So it wasn't until I was 3-4 weeks from closing the doors, and that's when you have to rise to the occasion. You either capitulate and call it quits, or you rise to the occasion, you come forward. So for you, it sounds to me that there was that tipping point where things were starting to spiral and you're doing things in your life that are just not helping whatsoever. And even when Wayne Bennett come up to you and said, what's going on? Can I help you?
So that turning point, coincidentally, the Black Dog Institute actually come into training that week and held an educational presentation with our first grade squad. And the facilitator, the man that facilitated it, it was like he was actually talking to me, the things he was saying, and it just really related and hit home. And a few of my teammates at the time just sort of said, did a lot of that relate with you? And I was sort of like, oh, yeah, sort of. Like you didn't want to give anything away. And I think they knew there was something going on with me the whole time, because growing up, I was very angry. I used to fight a lot. I wouldn't be the easiest person to get along with at school. My relationships were up and down. My moods were up and down. But there was an online questionnaire you could do. So I went home and did that online questionnaire, and at the end of it, it come back and it said that you may be struggling from a mental illness. So maybe come in to get some clinical help. And another week went by. I tried to convince myself again, no, there's nothing wrong, wear that mask, convince the world that everything's all good, whilst you're hurting inside. And then I just said, no, I'm going to do it. I want to be the best version of myself again. So I drove myself up there. Obviously my anxiety levels were really high. My hands were sweaty on the way up. I was shit scared. Like, I got paid to take hit-ups for a living, which people think scary, but this was scary.
Really?
I didn't know what I was going to have to face. I didn't know how I was going to react, and I didn't know what was going to get brought up. But I knew I had to do it. So I went up there to Randwick, where their clinician is, and spent the day out there. Different doctors, psychologists, psychiatrists, and at the end of the day, you come in and there's a panel of all the doctors, and that's when they diagnosed me type 2 bipolar.
Wow!
But a lot of people might think getting diagnosed with a mental illness is a big negative, but for myself, it was like a weight off my shoulders.
Really?
And if you look at a bookshelf and you put the books back in chronological order from A to Z, it was like things were getting context in my life. Why I handled things the way I did, why I handled that situation the way I did, why that grand final, missing that and that surgery, why that affected me so badly, and things like that. So if you don't know what bipolar is, it's a chemical imbalance in your brain. And you can have really high highs and really low lows.
Gotcha.
They can happen in a day, a week, a month. It's all different for different people. I'd explain it, your moods are a bit like a roller coaster.
Really?
And then you were speaking about the pressures of professional sport.
Yep.
Well, it's a roller coaster in itself.
Of course.
You win, you lose, contracts, stuff like that. Life's a roller coaster as well. So I was on the triple roller coaster. So it just gave me understanding of, it just made me feel like I could stop beating myself up.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you think people don't have that same approach? Because to me, your approach as, well, this explains a lot, and it kind of, my life's starting to make more sense. So that's a very positive take on a diagnosis like that. But do you think people just don't, as soon as they get that label, so to speak, then they're kind of like, well, fuck, if that's,
my life's over.
Exactly. Like, what's the point of going on if I'm just I've got screw loose, or like they have that sort of negative
and one,
approach
that's the
to it.
stigma, but two, that's because they don't have the education.
Gotcha.
And a lot of people say, I don't have a purpose and things like that, and then they get a diagnosis, they're like, well, my life's over. But if they just had that education, or they knew that someone else was out there that had struggled with that, like if I had someone like myself coming to share my story and the education that I do now in my presentations, like it would have saved me years of struggle.
Right.
But there was nothing out there, and things like that. So, but after that, it also made me want to understand my illness, understand what works, what doesn't work, what I need to do, because a lot of people, you say, people are suffering with a mental illness. I think your thoughts become your words become your actions. And
So
if
true.
you continuously say, I'm suffering with a mental illness, you're suffering. But if you say, I'm experiencing a mental illness, or I even say now, I'm managing a mental illness, and it's changed my whole thought process on it and everything like that. So it's like just managing diabetes. Like people don't say, I suffer with diabetes.
Yeah, gotcha.
And stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, and I appreciate what you said there about the positive take that I took on it. In a way, it was, I didn't feel like I had any other way to take it, because I'd already hit rock bottom. I was at the bottom.
Yep.
So I could only come up. And for that, it was like as I said, that weight lifted off my shoulders. But that's when I started seeing psychologists, psychiatrists, learning coping strategies, cognitive behavioural therapy, all these different things. I was on medication for a 2-3 year period.
Yep.
Mood stabilisers, antipsychotics to help my moods and help myself sleep. Because when I was struggling, I'd go for days not sleeping, or sleeping 4 days.
Shit, really?
So it's bipolar. It's definitely an interesting disorder. Mate, some of the ideas I can have when I'm on a high, and my wife gets the shit, so I'll ring it 10 times in a day with a different idea. But when you start to manage it, it's not, I wouldn't say it's fun in a way, but you can get the good
Sure.
good
See the
out
lighter
of it.
side.
The good, well, you can use the positives out of it, but you also manage the dark times. I know when to take myself out of situations. I know when to when I need to speak to someone, when I need to go back to my psychologist.
Yeah.
But that's taken 6 years of hard work. Like,
Wow.
I can sit here now and say I'm medication free.
Yes.
But
It's been a period of time. It's been a work in progress.
A journey, and it's going to continue to be a journey. And people, it took me 3 psychologists to find one that I felt comfortable enough to open up and talk
Really?
to. And people, they'll go, I went and seen one. It wasn't for me.
Yeah.
But if you get a bad haircut, right, are you going to go back and get that same bad haircut?
I hate my haircut. It's the same every day. Yeah.
But are you going to go back to that
Yeah,
same
I know
person?
what you
No.
mean.
But are you ever going to get a haircut again?
No, of course not.
So
Yeah,
you go find
try something
another
different.
one. And that's what people need to know with your psychologist. It's trial and error.
Yeah.
And things like that. And medication, there's nothing wrong with medication if you use it in the right way, and you use it with your coping strategies and your support networks. And that's how you can get yourself better.
Yeah.
And then I went to TAFE, I went to university to study, because Wayne Bennett said to me, he goes, what are you going to do when you finish footy? And I said, I got no idea. And I was studying PE at the time, I wasn't really liking it. And he goes, well, find something you're passionate about.
Yeah.
And I said,
great advice.
nothing really. And he goes, mental health. This was 4 or 5 years ago, before anyone even started talking about it.
No
and
way.
I just said, really? And then that's when I started studying community services, youth counselling, all those different things. And we can see how much of a big industry it is now, but it's something that I wanted to get as much information of. I still read on a daily basis, listen to podcasts, everything, trying to just gather as much information as I can to pass on to other people in my presentations, and just having general conversations with people, because it's where it starts. not everyone's going to have a Wayne Bennett to come up to them in their life.
That's right.
But everyone can be that Wayne Bennett. They can ask that, are you okay? Is there anything I can do to help? To start that conversation. And we have that Are You Okay Day, which is a great initiative.
Yeah.
But why isn't it like that every day?
Of course.
When someone's struggling, you say, what's wrong with you? Cheer up. Or get over it.
Yeah.
What do you got to be depressed about?
Of course.
People say, oh, you got a good job, you got a good house, you got a good car. Well,
Yeah.
what do you got to be depressed about?
Yeah.
Well, mental illness doesn't discriminate. It can affect anyone at any time. You can be a CEO or a homeless man on the street. It'll affect you the same. So people need to know that. Just because you've got a good house and a good car doesn't mean you're exempt from mental illness.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think people would dismiss, like, oh, Dean's just in a shitty mood today.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's like, or they meet you for the first time or for whatever and go, yeah, guys seem like a real asshole, you know?
Well, exactly right. Yeah.
They dismiss it as, you're just not a nice person,
Yep.
whereas being
People
the
don't
service,
know. Yeah.
they don't know what's going on.
And I use the example, so during my, obviously, studies and getting myself better and my, I guess, my road to recovery, well, if you use the cup, for example, it's your mental health. So everyone has a mental health. Every single person has a physical health, everyone has a mental health.
Yep.
Everything, the things that happen in life, you lose a loved one, jobs, financial troubles, relationship problems, marriage breakups, bullying, all these things are contributing factors that might throw your mental health out of balance and you may cause a mental illness. But all those things, every time something happens in your life, you pour a bit of water in. You break up with your missus, you pour a bit of water in. You lose your job, you pour a bit of water in. What's going to happen to the glass?
Yeah,
it's going to fill up and it's going to overflow. So if we don't put support networks, coping strategies in place to empty our glass,
Sure.
it's just going to keep filling up and overflowing. And that's when we can struggle with depression, with anxiety and things like that. So we need those coping strategies to empty this glass, empty our mental health, manage our mental health. Because if we don't manage it, that's when we're going to struggle. So people need to know that. Sweeping things under the carpet, drinking alcohol, taking drugs, risk-taking behaviour, as I did with one of my coping strategies, it doesn't work.
Of course.
It fills your glass up even quicker.
Recipe for disaster.
Exactly. So we've got to be wary and understand of that metaphor. And I think a lot of people go a long way if they, is this filling my cup up or is this emptying my cup?
Yeah,
I know
absolutely.
it sounds silly, but if people have that thought process, it's going to fill my cup up.
I guess every action that you take has a subsequent action or reaction, you know, so I guess you can ask yourself, like, is this really serving a purpose? And again, if you're turning to the bottle, to pills or to whatever it might be, it's a band-aid approach and it's not really attacking
It's not.
the challenge.
And then you look at, like we were saying about someone in a shitty mood, right? So say someone's cup's really full, it's about that far from the brim, but then they come to work and they forgot to do something, or they go home and put their dirty clothes on the floor, and their missus then says, you could have put them in the dirty clothes basket, and they just fly off the handle. Is that really because of the clothes, or is it because of all that other things that filled their cup up? And that was just the one thing that tipped them over the edge.
Tips them over the edge.
And that's where we need to understand. So one of the signs and symptoms is you're getting angry or irritated for no apparent reason.
Right.
Which is
easily dismissible too, right?
easily dismissible.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying just because you fly off the handle you've got a mental illness, but you need to be aware that there could be some things going on.
Or something beneath the surface that you need to
And with
resolve.
addiction, whether it's gambling, eating food, violence, drugs, alcohol, whatever it is, it's because there's an underlying factor. There's something going on. So if we only just treat the symptoms, you might get better, but you're always going to regress.
Yeah.
So unless I was going to deal with the things in my past, the crux of what my issue was, I would have went back.
Yeah.
But I dealt with it, and that's what I had to do. And it's not an easy thing. I'm not going to lie to you. It was bloody hard. But unless we deal with that, we're just all going to get stuck on the vicious cycle. And you may not get to deal with it the first time. It may take you a couple of times, and that's okay too. But if we just keep sweeping things under the carpet, we just can't.
That's when your cup will overflow, no doubt.
Of course. And they're just simple things of starting the conversation or having someone you can talk to or trust in your life. And if you don't have that person, you've got to find it. You can't give up on it.
So one of the things I've noticed about your story so far is that you found something. So what I can already tell is you've retired from footy. And when you talk about, like when I talk about retirement, I'm talking about when I'm 65,
70,
right?
Yeah.
Whereas you're talking about retiring at 28. Now, I guess it kind of wasn't a decision that you had to, it was made for you at the time. But you've found something even before that you could lead into. Do you think, I'm sensing that there was this path or a higher purpose or something else to follow which helped you in that transition? Is that something you think people lack?
Definitely
in their lives?
Because a lot of players they do struggle when they retire. Because if you look at it, I think it's between 11 and 13% of rugby league players that are playing now, like in the whole of Australia, will make the professional level. So
wow.
there may be 1 million, 2 million kids or whatever playing rugby league.
Yeah.
11 to 13% of them will make professional. And when you make professional, the average amount of games is 42. So that's not even 2 seasons.
Wow.
So not only is it a limited number to make it, when you do make it, the average games is only 42.
Yeah.
So a lot of people say, oh, well, you've got to have what's your backup? What's your plan B? I call it a transition. What's your transition plan?
Yes.
Because a lot of kids, what happens in the under 20s, for example, four kids have taken their own life in the last 3 years. Jeez. Because they're in the under 20 system and they got an injury or whatever went on in their life and they felt like there wasn't a light at the end of the tunnel. And that's because the stigma and there's that no education and they didn't feel like they could ask for help because for whatever reason. And I was in that boat. And it's about, they've got to understand that rugby league is one part of it, but you've still got a whole array, a whole other life out there. And that perspective is a big thing. Because now that I'm retired, rugby league taught me so much and I had a fantastic career and I'm very lucky, but it's only a small part of your life.
Yeah.
So you've got to be able to, and the NRL are doing great things now. We've got school to work. You've got to be either studying or working if you're in the under 20s now. So if you do have an injury or something doesn't work out, you've got that work to transition into. And they're doing a lot of good stuff with retired players now about educating them, having a plan a couple of years before you look like you're going to retire, and then they support you 2 years afterwards. So there's some good support networks in there which weren't in there in the past, but because we didn't know. But they're doing really, really good things now, which is really good in helping current, retired, and younger players, which I think is really good. In terms of, I think you've got to find something that you're passionate about, other than footy, and then work on that.
So what about everyone else, though? I mean, see, I guess from your perspective, you may not have found it easy to kind of open up or turn to certain people, but you were kind of exposed to like really good sources, and you had someone like fucking Wayne Bennett, you know, that could kind of go, listen, man, I'm seeing what's going on, and I've seen it all before, or you know, like they can steer in the right direction. So, what do you say to the person who may not have that kind of exposure, or may have a mother or father, or their network is not really that supportive? It's kind of, you know, you hang around, if you're boozing, if you're taking drugs, if you're not in a good way, or if you're around other people they're not knowledgeable either. So
that's where
what do you do?
That's where you got to find it. You've got to, and that's why that's been created. You've got to come and see that. There's other organisations out there like that. Not just helping in mental illness or mental health, but there'd be one person in your life that you can ask for advice. No matter all those things that are going on there, there'd be that one person, whether it be your teacher, your coach. How many people in their life have said, if I didn't have that teacher at school, I never would have got through school?
Sure.
That happens all the time. Or I've got this boss or this other guy that really helped me along the way. There'll be one person, that coach really helped me along the way. There'll be one person in your life that will be that person, and that's the person you've got to find, and that's the person you've got to open up to. Because
so I guess that perspective of there is always something else out there, as in I don't have to suffer anymore. I don't have to resolve that this is just my life and the way that it has to be. There's another alternative, and this is probably coming back to your nature in terms of in your upbringing, because you're always finding a way. So you've already talked about in training, let's just focus on the two things that I can do great. Let's just focus on these things that are going to help me improve because I lack in this area or that area. So I'm just going to focus on my strengths. So I guess you're probably unawares that you've got this mindset of seeking out a problem.
And I guess that
might
be an innate thing with human beings. They have the flight or flight sort of thing. But we speak about resilience, right? So if I ask that question to a school group or another group, a lot of people, the main answer I get back is bouncing back, which it is. But not everyone has to hit rock bottom like I did to then bounce back.
Correct.
Resilience is about adaptability. It's about adapting to your surroundings, adapting to the situation, and having the right tools and coping strategies to navigate through that.
Yeah.
Because you can't say in life that you're never going to get hit with tough times.
Absolutely.
So every time you hit a tough time, are you going to have to wait till you hit rock bottom to bounce back? No, you have to have the right things. It's like everyone has a mental health. Everyone's walking around with their kit bag. And some people's kit bags are empty. So what do we need to do? We need to educate ourselves to fill our kit bags up. So when we do hit the tough times, we know what works for us, what works for someone else.
Yeah, for
because
sure.
everyone's different. Everyone's got different personalities, different things like that. So what works for me may not work for you.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you give up. You've got to go find what works for you.
Sure.
But
what works for a male may not work for a female. What works for someone who's 30 versus 38 versus 18
exactly. But at the
it's
moment,
going to be different.
Because of the way society is, everyone wants it right here, right now. And that's why kids, they don't have as much resilience as kids did 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And there's so many things that I guess we can do, but resilience is a big key. You've got to be able to learn how to get through tough times.
Yeah.
Whether it be your HSC, whether it be your upbringing, whether it be an injury, whether it be an addiction, whether it be the loss of a loved one.
Yes.
And everyone goes through different things.
It's just going to happen, so you can't avoid it.
Everyone's on a different journey, and things like that. And no one's journey is more important. You don't get more points because you did that. You get less points there. That's just all bullshit. Everyone's journey means something to them, and it does. But you've got to be able to find the tools to get through it. And I'm not saying I still struggle now.
Yeah.
But if I choose not to use those coping strategies, or I choose to go and get on the piss, or choose to go and party and do all those things, I know it's going to put myself at risk. It's going to affect my mental health. So a mistake made more than once is a choice.
Yeah.
So if you've got the education and the understanding, you're now making a choice.
Wow.
So people they say ignorance is bliss, because if you don't know, well then you're not doing anything wrong.
That's it.
So let's give people the education, give them the opportunity to make the choice in their hand, and I think that's what
I think you've said that brilliantly, because it's really forcing people to become conscious of their own decisions, their life choices, and knowing that we are able to make choices, so therefore we can steer ourselves in any direction that we want to in life. Right. So let's talk about mental health movement. I guess I can understand why you've come up with it. It's such an important part of your life. But what does it do to help people with a mental health illness or struggling?
Okay, so the thing about it is, a lot of people, when they go and educate around mental illness, or they talk about it, they're like, oh, what would you know? You haven't been through it. You don't understand, you can't relate. Well, when you get up and you tell your story, and I'll go into the details that I'll go into about my upbringing, about my addiction, about my dark times and stuff like that, it just breaks down all the barriers. It gets through to all the stigma.
Yeah,
so
awesome.
we've got a raw individual there, opened up, ready to go. And then that's when the education comes in. The signs and symptoms, the causes, the coping strategies, how to help themselves, how to help someone else, and then all the helpful resources, websites, numbers to be able for them to be able to call. But I want to be able to, the next step, and not just ticking a box, having a presentation, which is great. You break the story down, you give them the education, but we're in a day and age where everything's on our phone. So I want to be able to come up with something, and I'm in the midst of working on it, where after my presentation, if someone's struggling, they can go online to a mental health movement app or on the website and get the psychologist, psychiatrist right there, right then, to get that help that they need.
Brilliant.
Because I heard on the radio coming here today that 50% of young people are waiting 6 months for a follow-up session with clinical support.
Really?
And I know myself, from someone that has struggled, 6 months is a long time when you're struggling. So we need the funding.
It's a life or death situation.
Exactly. So, mental health movement, it's not just about the awareness and the stigma, it's about the education, and it's about linking people with the help and the support that they need.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't even know, like, that I go and talk to, that Medicare has a mental health plan where you get 6 free sessions. People don't even know that, because money is an issue.
Yeah.
Because not everyone has a lot of money.
Of course.
And people that struggle may not be able to go and afford to get that help. But there's those 6 free sessions there. At least that's a step on that journey to getting better. And that's where mental health movement just it's just filling that gap, or where the people that fall through the system. But the statistics. So I do a data analysis after my presentation with whatever organisation I work with, and 90% of the people that I've worked with have never had a mental health education presentation before.
Really?
Which is alarming, because you look at the statistics that for every $1 spent on a mental health initiative increases productivity in the workforce by $5.
Really?
So, and that's a fact. So why not spend money on mental health initiatives? Because you're going to get better out of your workforce, and you're going to get better students. You look at professional environment, why teams struggle, why players go up and down in their performances, because there's things going on off the field you don't know. They could have lost a loved one, they could be having marriage problems, and that's
so
why
much more.
That's why their form's bad.
Yeah.
So that's why Wayne Bennett's so successful, because he can manage the player and make him believe in himself, make him do all those things so that he is the best version of himself.
Yeah.
You look at jobs, for example. If you've got a shit boss, you're not going to stay back 15 minutes. You're not going to be on time. You're going to do everything you can to stick it up in. But if you have a boss that cares about you, cares about how you're going, wants to invest time and stuff in you, mate, you'll bend over backwards to help them. And it's the same in the professional environment. When the chips are down, you're behind the post, you'll get out and you'll find something.
Yeah.
And we've got to be the same as that, like especially with kids. If you that teacher, you've got to be able to motivate your kids and get them to be the best version of themselves. And parents, I'm telling you, they need to step up too. Because I can go to the schools and teach all these kids these things, but they go home to their environment.
Yeah.
The parents need to be picking up that slack as well.
So this education component is such an important thing for me. So my business is helping business owners, social media, and it's one of the things that from a marketing perspective, I see a lot of the campaigns. I've been involved in a few of them. But again, from an education point of view, it does seem to kind of really lack. And I don't know if that's my perception, as in I'm just not aware of it, or they actually don't have the substance behind in terms of it's an awareness, but what comes after that?
I just think that as a society, because it's such a taboo subject, it's just the natural progression. Awareness is the first step, which is what we've taken. And as you can see, there's a lot of it going around.
A lot of awareness,
and it's really good. And I think that the next step is then the education. And getting those people, because you know yourself, the more you know, the more you understand, the better choices we can make. Because if we don't know how to make the choice, it's a mistake. And things like that. And then if we keep doing the same thing over and over and over,
well, you're fumbling your way through trying to find the light.
That education, it's like when a mother has a child for the first time. She's flying blind, and she's just doing her best. But the next time, because she's had the experience and she's got the education, she does it a lot better.
Correct.
And it's the same metaphor as any other thing in life, and there's no different for your mental health, mental illness. And I'm not saying that there is that aspect where they need that clinical support. Like my auntie has schizophrenia, so she has to be on heavy duty medication and things like that. And you need that clinical professional help. But 1 in 2 people will experience a mental illness in their lifetime. So if 50% of the population is struggling, I can guarantee the other half are dealing with someone struggling.
Correct.
So in essence, mental health, mental illness affects everyone. So if we're not putting the right things, having those conversations, doing that stuff, a few simple coping strategies, starting the conversation, things like could help, and that education could help 30, 40% of the population. Why not do it? And then, say the other 20% need that clinical support. Well, let's link them to that clinical support that they need. And then this other percentage need this. We look at business models and things like that. You find a product, you find people to buy it, and you link those people with that product. Why isn't it the same? This is what mental health movement is. I've found something that people need, which is what I needed. So let's find it, let's link into them, and let's do it. So
it's funny you say that, because my mind straight away, when you were just talking there, went to your challenge. And anyone in this sort of space is to extract people out from hiding, so to speak, because they're just not willing to come forward. And when you think about, say, a father or a mother that's in their 40s, and you know what, they're motoring through, like you said before, they're just going through the motions, they're making sure they just got to get shit done. They're not really thinking about emptying their cup and making sure that things are okay. So for them to come forward, or to even be aware that there's something that can help them, or they have got an issue that needs to be resolved here, that in itself is a challenge. And then you've got the other end of the spectrum, where you've got young kids who don't have the self-awareness to kind of go, because they're unbeatable. Like you're 18, like you're unstoppable, you know.
There's nothing wrong with me, I'm sweet.
Exactly right.
And to a degree, everyone you can't help everyone, but everyone can help someone. And a lot of people are on their own journey, and they've got to make their mistakes. They've got to get through it. I had to do it myself, and they've got to get through that. But let's just give them a few tools, a bit of assistance along the way. So then the mistakes or whatever they make, the outcomes aren't fatal.
Correct.
The outcomes are just where they might go down a little bit and then they come back up. They're not down like that. So let's make them. So let's make the downs not as bad.
Yes.
And you do that through the education, the coping strategies, and things like that.
Yeah. It's like you said before. This is a management process. It's not so much like people are going to come and see Dan and they're going to go, yep, you do this, this, and this, and you're fixed. You know.
And I have presentations where I get asked a question. And if I don't know it, I say, look, I don't know the answer.
Yeah.
And there is no secret answer. There is no secret answer, because if there was, 50% of the population wouldn't be struggling.
Correct.
with it.
Yeah.
So people just need to understand that there is no solution. It's just a continual management of it.
Yeah.
It's like the same as your physical health. You've got to go to the gym, you've got to eat right, you've got to sleep.
Yeah.
You've got to do the same with your mental health.
Yeah.
But you might have to add another few things, like just a few. I'll share a few basic coping strategies which I have in my booklet.
Yeah, for sure.
So gratitude's one of them. So I write 3 things down at the end of each day that I'm grateful for. And that, over a 21-day period, can rewire your brain. It is scientifically proven to improve your mental and physical health, because you do not focus just on the negatives and what's going on in your life. It's about the positives.
I love it.
And I have an activity where I make people, in my presentation, write 5 things down that they're grateful for. And then I just ask for some feedback. I say, how did that make you feel? And they go, oh, it's really good. And I said, put your hand up if you've got things going on in your life that is really upsetting you. And the majority of people put their hand up. And I say, how did that make you feel for that 30 seconds to 2 minutes while you were writing that? Oh, I didn't even think about those problems.
Yes.
So if you do that on a daily basis, what's your thought process is going to do?
Absolutely.
What are they going to change? And then another one, you can't help someone else without helping yourself. So I say, write one thing down that you're going to do for yourself each day. And some people go, oh, I can't do that, I haven't got time. Bullshit. Get up 15 minutes early, go for a walk.
Yeah.
Get your cup of coffee, go down and look at the sunrise. Give your wife a kiss. Give your husband a kiss.
Yes.
Ask your kids at the dinner table, how was school?
Yep.
Just little things like this. And when you get really good at doing one thing for yourself, do one thing for someone else. There's a video I show, and it's got a young kid. He's been bullied at school. He had to change schools. He lost his father, and he was sick of being bullied, and he was sick of being a nobody. So what he did, he started opening the door for people. They called him the doorman. And over a 12-month period, he was opening the door. He got prom king, and now he's a public speaker just from that one action of opening the door for someone else, because the kids felt like he was opening up to them and giving them the opportunity to talk. And it's unbelievable.
That's awesome. It's amazing how those things, I think people would write that off as being too basic and too simplistic. But again, from a mindset, from a spiritual point of view, when you put yourself in a state of gratitude, it just dissolves everything else in and around you. And when you're in the moment and not thinking in the past or in the future, or that thought process starts to stop, as soon as you quieten your mind, it kind of just diffuses a lot of the energy that's attached to that situation, that moment,
exactly,
whatever it might be.
And then mindfulness is obviously, but that's not something you can learn overnight, but it's about being mindful and having perspective of what's going on.
Yeah.
Instead of just flying off at the handle, okay, that's it. Take the step back, have a look at the surroundings. So I've got another one, I call it my anxiety action plan, where I write all the things down one side of the page that's worrying me or upsetting me.
Yep.
And then you look at it, what's in your control, what's out of your control, and you categorize it. Sometimes it is in your control and out of your control.
Yeah.
But you look at what you can control. And then we write 3 positive actions that we can do to get a positive outcome for that thing worrying you. And even just the fact of writing it down on a piece of paper and getting it out of your head is a process in itself of making yourself feel better.
That's right.
And then you go and do those 3 steps, and then you look at the outcome that it gets you, then that empowers you again.
Correct.
And you're just like, shit, I can do this. You do that over 7, 14 days. You just start doing that over 3, 4, 5 year period, and you start being consistent with your actions, and your life changes.
It's dramatic.
The 3 things we can control in life: our thoughts, words, and our actions. If we change our thoughts, we change our words, we change our actions, we change our life. And you can sit here and say, oh, that's just a guru, it's all bullshit and stuff like that. Well, I've lived it. So.
Yeah. And the thing about that is like, that's good for you, it's good for me, it's good for my kids, that's good for anyone, a mum, a dad, a husband, a wife, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a business person. Do you know what I mean? Like,
it doesn't cost anything.
Exactly, but they're life principles, you know. That's something that's applicable to everyone. So it's such a pertinent thing when you are dealing with a mental illness, that can kind of, that can 1/3 or 1/2 empty that cup you were talking about before.
Exactly.
And then all of a sudden your threshold, your capacity to handle...
Your cup gets bigger.
Yeah, it's
and
perfect.
Then I've got another one. I'm just sharing all these with you.
Yeah.
You have to start paying that.
It's all good.
But another one is a goal setting activity.
Yeah.
And I've been doing this with these industry workers, And a man that he was 48 years old, and he said, I haven't goal set since high school.
Wow.
And I just said, like, okay, well, but that just made me think, like, okay, well, if you've had no goals since you were 18 years old, so that for that 30 years, you've had no guidance, you've had no structure, and you've had nothing to work towards. And you've had none of that satisfaction when you do achieve a goal.
Yep.
So one of them is just write 3 goals that you want to achieve. And you just write them down. I said, whatever it may be, whether it be hike Mount Everest or pay your debt off on your thing or go on that holiday, whatever it is. And then I'll write one down that you want to achieve in the next 3 months. And then the next one is write 3 steps that you're going to do to achieve that goal. Some people, it's a phone call that they don't want to make to someone, or it's an email that they don't want to send. And it just eats them away and it fills their cup up. But if you put it on a piece of paper and you write it down, if you write a goal down or you tell someone about it, you're 70% more likely to achieve it because you have that accountability. Perfect. So you do that and then people just go, shit, I've got something to work towards now. So then when their cup may be filling up, they want to empty their cup because they want to achieve that. Yeah. And they're simple things and those things don't cost anything. Then you add that into that a physical exercise plan, which doesn't cost anything to go for a walk or a run or to do push-ups or to do dips. And then you eat right. Yeah, like food can be expensive, but you can manage.
You can make better choices.
You can make a healthier diet and stuff like that. And then sleep. People do not put enough emphasis on sleep. If you celebrate your 60th birthday, you've been asleep for 31 years. So if your quality of sleep in those 31 years is poor, what do you think your 29 years of being awake is going to be? It's going to be poor.
Absolutely.
And we as human beings, we need to sleep.
Yeah, I'm a big one for that. Definitely don't get it
as am I.
Yeah.
So it's they're just simple things, but if those things you put in place, I can guarantee you will make an improvement in your life. And if you are struggling like I did with a chemical imbalance or things like that, and you're not in the headspace to be able to do these things, that's where you need that clinical support, where I needed those mood stabilizers and those antipsychotics to get me into the headspace so that I could then do these things. Because that, with those coping strategies, I'm telling you, and then your good support networks, it's a recipe for success and a recipe for health, both mentally and physically.
Awesome. Okay, Dan, so where can people find you? Do they go to the mental health website, the mental health movement website, or they go and see you?
So the website's in the midst of being launched. So it's www.mentalhealthmovement.com.au. The email is info@mentalhealthmovement.com.au. We're on Facebook as Mental Health Movement. We're also on Instagram as Mental Health Movement.
Perfect.
And it's the Facebook and Instagram is just about sharing my journey, Mental Health Movement's journey, and it's about having that, that interaction, as you know, on social media and things like that. And just if you, your organisation, your school, as an individual, if you want some advice or you want me to come out and work with you guys, please shoot me an email and we'll organise getting out there because our slogan is start the conversation.
Awesome.
Exactly what we've done here. And I'm privileged to have been able to share my story.
Thanks, mate. Look, I'll
thank you.
I just want to ask one more question. The show is life lessons. So being through your journey, having experienced all the things that you have, what's one life lesson that you can impart on anyone, on our listeners?
It'll end up being one, but I bet you'll end up saying about 10 things. But if we're looking in relation to mental health, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. And I've been to the point where I didn't see that light. So if you don't see that light at the end of the tunnel, you need to find someone to help you find that light. And then I just guess, never close yourself up to learning. Never think that you know everything. Always ask questions. I was always the guy that asked the stupid questions, but I can guarantee you everyone else in that room wants to know the same question. So I always say, don't be afraid to ask questions. There's no such thing as a stupid idea. And just believe in yourself and truly, honestly, just believe in who you are, and don't sort of give in to things if it's going to question who you are, because at the end of the day, you've got to go home and you've got to live with who you are. You've got to be able to sleep. You've got to be able to deal with that person in your head. So do whatever you need to do whatever boxes you've got to tick to be able to be the best version of yourself. And look at yourself. If you're not doing those things to be the best version of yourself, maybe you have to reassess.
Perfect.
Yeah. No worries. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much.
Cheers, guys.
Pleasure. There you go, guys. Adrian here for Life Lessons TV, and I'll see you guys on the next episode. So Life Lessons TV, look, it's going to be sort of, I think, a little bit edgy. I think it's going to be a little bit off the cuff. I'm letting you know now that once I get excited about a topic, I might swear a little bit. I might let a couple of curses go. So it's one of those things where I think I just want things to be kind of real.